Columbia Police Department tonight continues to investigate the disappearance of a 28-year-old woman.
Whatever she's doing, I just hope she's safe.
Today I saw investigators leaving the apartment that woman shares with her husband.
I know she was talking to somebody else.
Who is this woman, and where did she go? Was she up to no good, or was she the victim of something sinister? This is the mysterious disappearance of Mengqi Ji. Mengqi was born in Xi'an, China in April of 1991. She was always an overachiever, taking up painting and calligraphy as a child. Mengqi eventually made her way to the States, attending the University of Missouri to complete her master's. In 2014, one of Mengqi's professors hired her right out of college to work at his biomaterials company, Ninova. She would go on to become a supervisor and stay in the Columbia, Missouri area. That opportunity would change her life in so many ways. In September of 2015, while working at Ninova, she met Joe Elledge. Although culturally they were opposites, they had a lot in common. They both attended Mizzou, where Joe was still studying, and they were both engineers. Mengqi was Joe's boss. They started dating in January of 2016 and had a whirlwind romance. In fact, less than 2 years later, while on a hike in Rockbridge Memorial State Park in Columbia, Joe got down on one knee and proposed to Mengqi. They got married just 2 weeks later. And if you thought that was fast, just 5 months after that, Joe and Mengqi learned that their family was growing by one. At this time, Mengqi was offered a better job, but she turned it down as the couple decided that she would be a stay-at-home mom. Now remember, this has been an ambitious, career-oriented woman up until this point. In fact, she had been the breadwinner while Joe was finishing his degree. This was obviously going to be a huge transition. In October of 2018, their daughter, Anna, was born. Mengqi had help. Well, kind of. In Chinese culture, there's a tradition called Su Yue Si, which translates to the sitting month or postpartum confinement. Her parents flew in from China to assist with the sitting month. But the addition of their in-laws created extra tension in the marriage, so much that Mengqi's parents left before the month was complete. Is space what the family needed? Just some time to adjust to their new life as parents? Or did they need marital help? Just a year later, on October 8th, 2019, we get more questions. Questions no one was prepared for.
KRCG 13 is investigating the disappearance of a 28-year-old woman. They say she went missing from her own apartment last week.
Investigators say her husband told them he last saw her about 11:30 p.m. last Tuesday. When he woke up the next morning, police say he told them she was gone. He reported her missing later that evening. Her husband telling me that this entire situation is, quote, weird. He didn't want to comment on camera, but he says that law enforcement has been doing a great job and that he hopes that she comes home soon.
It's been 1 week since Joe Elledge has seen his wife, Mengqi Elledge.
If she's watching, I want her to know that I love her and that Anna loves her too. Anna needs to see her mom.
Some digging reveals that the couple wasn't exactly living the dream.
I know she was talking to somebody else on the side, and I didn't know that until after she had left.
Secret recordings on Joe's phone revealed some concerning conversations between the couple. Was the marriage so bad that it drove Mengqi to seek the companionship of another man? Did she disappear, or was this her choice?
Well, this certainly hasn't been an easy time for the friends and family of Mengqi Ji. And I spoke with a friend today who says they're just trying to remain hopeful during this time.
Mengqi's mother couldn't believe her daughter would just up and leave, and neither could her friends.
She's a mother, and if you have seen her baby, you could definitely believe that she will never leave her baby.
In documents, Joe Elledge, in addition, waiting more than a day and a half to report his wife missing.
That report was only after Mengqi missed her daily phone call with her mother. And Mengqi's mom asked a friend if she could go check on her. It was only then that Joe reported her missing to 311. 2 weeks after her disappearance, the case would take a shocking turn. On the same day the Columbia Police Department announced they were opening a criminal investigation into Mengqi's disappearance, Joe Elledge is arrested, but not for anything related to his wife.
Boone County prosecutor Dan Knight says Elledge struck and bruised his daughter to try and stop her from crying. Elledge told police he bruised his daughter by pinching her.
Now that Joe is in custody for child abuse, investigators start looking at him as a suspect. After analyzing cell tower data from Joe's phone, investigators found a piece of information that Joe never disclosed. About 40 minutes from Columbus, Missouri, a cell tower near the Lamine River picked up a ping from Joe's phone on the day he says his wife disappeared. It was all hands on deck looking for Mengqi.
Police say cadaver dogs, experienced divers, excavators, and high-powered sonar, and a levee was built to the tune of $50,000 to help hold back some of the water and swift current to make it easier to search.
Had they been looking in the wrong place all along?
He drove to the Jeff City area on one trip and then drove back to Columbia, and then a second trip later on that afternoon, he drove down to Ashland, over to Guthrie, I think back to Ashland, over to Fulton, back up to Columbia, and then over to Roachport.
Did Joe say he went all those places to intentionally throw off investigators? Isn't it odd to not know where your wife is and decide to take a joyride instead of calling police? On February 20th, 2020, we get closer to the truth.
From across mid-Missouri, this is KRCG 13.
Good afternoon. We finally have been able to comb through the charging documents for Joseph Elledge. They indicate the prosecutor believes Elledge killed his wife while giving her a massage.
Yes, you heard that right. Prosecutor Dan Knight charged Elledge with first-degree murder months after his initial child abuse charges. But with no body? How, you ask? A murder can be prosecuted with enough strong evidence. In this case, it was the hours of recorded arguments between Mengqi and Joe. Insults and threats were found in the recordings, and then there were the unexplained differences in Joe's story and cell phone tower data after Mengqi's disappearance. Building a case with no body would take time, a challenge prosecutor Dan Knight was up for. But the path to solving her disappearance would come in the most unexpected way.
Today, Missouri park rangers responded to the report of remains found at Rockbridge State Park. Columbia police believe these may be the remains of Mengqi Ji.
Near the remains, personal property that had a similar description to those belonging to Mengqi Ji. Investigators also located documents, bank and credit cards, and a driver's license, all in the name and belonging to Mengqi Ji.
What matters to Mengqi Ji's family is that they can sleep a little better tonight, knowing that hopefully she's been found.
That was Columbia Mayor Brian Treese this afternoon, confirming what investigators believe to be the case. The human remains discovered by hikers in Rockbridge State Park just less than 2 weeks ago are in fact those of missing Columbia mother Mengqi Ji.
So a search was conducted of Rockbridge a few days after Mengqi went missing, but not the exact location where her body was found. Do you think her body was there this whole time? Now, you would think the body would be the final piece of evidence needed to convict Joe, but it's just not that simple.
This gives prosecutors gray hair, because the theory of the case was the Lamine River. The theory of the case now is Rockbridge, and that causes some confusion, and that's a word you don't want in front of a jury.
The autopsy confirms the remains were Mengqi's. It also discovered that 4 of her ribs were broken. Her manner of death is ruled a homicide. But how is Joe tied to the murder? This is where the real detective work comes in. When Joe was arrested and evidence was collected from the couple's apartment, a pair of Joe's boots were confiscated. Dan Knight happened to remember the boots being soiled with mud, so he took a chance and enlisted the help of the Missouri Botanical Garden. They were asked to compare plant DNA from the boots to plants where Mengqi's remains were found. So what I'm saying is they used plant DNA to connect the dots in a crime, and it worked. Believe it or not, plants have unique DNA just like humans, and the DNA matched, tying Joe to the scene. So, what do you think happened now that prosecutors could place Joe at the scene?
He said he tried to start intimate relations with Ji, but she rejected him. Elledge and Ji argued. He got dressed to leave to take a walk. He said they pushed each other back and forth. She eventually fell and hit her head. He said she seemed dazed for a second, but he helped her to the couch, and then he said he left.
Joe says he awoke at 5 a.m. to the sound of Anna crying and found his wife dead. And instead of calling 911, he put her body in the trunk of his car, strapped his daughter into her car seat, and drove to numerous cities in Missouri looking for a place to bury his wife's body. But he wouldn't decide until October 10th to bury her in the state park. Jill was sentenced to 28 years for murdering Mengqi and 10 for the child abuse charges. In June of 2024, Joe's attorney filed a motion to have his conviction set aside due to ineffective representation, and in April of 2025, that request was denied. Baby Anna is now in the custody of Joe's parents, and all I can hope for is that she's able to live a somewhat peaceful life after all that her father has done to jeopardize her shot at a normal life. What do you think of this story? Have you ever heard of someone being found guilty through plant DNA? Let me know in the comments.